Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous male left behind spouse. His bomb drop is February of 2020 and date of marriage is 2011. He has a boomerang who is a low energy wallower. He says, recently my wife opened up again. She said she had pretended to be someone for years, that she wasn't to everyone, to which, having read enough, I said, yeah. She said without kids, she would have run away on bomb drop and how she was completely under it at that point. Even said, I think I had a midlife crisis. I haven't used that term with her, he says, since a week after bomb drop before the research. But she says, I think I had, I'm assuming this is her saying, she's even said, I think I had a midlife crisis. We're getting a divorce soon as I filed, and she is still with the alienator, albeit not living with him. But where do you think she is? Well, my question is, you said, albeit not living with him, she's still with him. I wondered if she had been living with him, and that's changed. But let's go on. She's recently said, I must hate her, etc. But I just said, I don't. And I know how hard it is that it's been for her, and I still think it's all been necessary. And more. There's more time to go. I thanked her for sharing too, but I wanted your thoughts. So what I like is that you said you don't hate her. I'm glad she asked. She said, oh, you must hate me. I like it when they give us something that we can show the compassion to, that we can be responsive to, and that we can dispel one of their myths. And it's that you must hate her. And you said, no, I don't hate you. In fact, I know this is hard. Good. Very good. And necessary. Another good one, because it's going to happen. Once they start this midlife crisis, there's this compulsion. And think about the things that we learn. We learn from the hard times in our lives, because that's what motivates us towards change instead of stasis. And that there's more time to go. Yeah. She's only in a little over, not quite 2.5 years. And I'm glad you said those things. She said she's had a midlife crisis. And you can say, what did you say to that? Does it say here? Let's see. So when she says, I think I even had a midlife crisis, it sounds like you might have said, when you said it's all been necessary, did you know was she this soon after the words midlife crisis? Because did you say, yeah, that might be a possibility? You don't have to. It's not wrong or right. I'm just curious. What you said, validate. But that doesn't mean you give her information on it. What it does mean, though, is if she asks for information, you can say, well, here's some information. You don't show her your private places like the forums or the Facebook pages or that. But you can say, well, there's a bunch of stuff on the internet if you want to research it. It's pretty interesting. If you had said, you know what, I've looked at that and I think it kind of fits. But you don't have to have that topic. A few days later, even after this, she might say, I came back and decided I looked at it. It's not me. Or she may not. Or she'll just drop it. But it does plant a seed. So I like that she is having that. But remember, she's still in the, excuse me, let's not say the early days, but we'll say the middle days now. So you've moved past. Many experts do say that women are a shorter midlife crisis than men. I don't say that. I don't put an opinion on it, because I am concerned that when I give a timeline, even more so when I give a timeline that says, oh, this one's shorter, that it changes hope and expectations. And I don't want to do that. I want everybody to go in with their eyes wide open, as it can still last long. If midlife crisis is upwards of 3 to 7 and upwards of 7 years, and let's say if it were only women and I were to say 3 to upwards of 5 years, we still have that upwards on there, which is why I don't like to box it in. I just like that she's starting to have these insights. Does that mean that she's going into liminality? Maybe. What I think more, though, it means is that she's close to it. If she's not already there, she is at a liminal pool where she's dipping her toe in. Or she's going back and forth a little bit. When you go into the transitions between the stages, you run back and forth and back and forth. It's just the stages bleed into another. So there's a fade in. It's not a hard line where I have just crossed the border from the United States to Canada. No, it's a very gradual transition into each. Except for maybe where we go into replay where they have a bomb drop and bam! But right now, she may be going that way. Maybe she's getting towards the tail end on her escape and avoid. We don't know. And remember, when I say they're not in escape and avoid anymore, let's say they're in replay, it doesn't mean they're not escaping and avoiding. It's just because that's MLC. But liminality is where the pressure is so great that their own psyche is forcing them to face this mirror. Still not facing them to fully face you. So they might be avoiding you there. I mean, there's the stage that, I don't like it called that, but John Conway calls withdrawal. I call a stage escape and avoid. And then suddenly somebody withdraws. Aren't they avoiding? Or doesn't it appear that way to the outside observer? So I want you to realize that if escape and avoid really is over, which many of you will call replay, that doesn't mean they're not done being distant from you. In fact, liminality, that's when depression may become more overt, where it seems more obvious. And you said she's a low energy wallower, which is more common for women than it is for men anyways. So she's already has some surface levels, or she appears to be depressed. You're getting divorced, and go through with what you need to go through. But she is doing a steady march, just according to the little tiny bits. She said she would have run away without kids. Yeah. And women often run more. They run further. They might run, I don't know if I would say faster, because men are more often high energy, and so they seem to have a fire in them. But women, they sink into a deeper, darker hole. It's more of like a black hole of simmering low, but there's tons of energy, but it's a low energy. It doesn't mean that it's not energy. And it simmers down there, and it eats in them. Whereas the high energy bursts out, and you can see it. The low energy, they go down. They don't talk. They become aloof. You want to say somebody's a boomerang, and I talked about how if they're at home, we call it at home, and if they're a boomerang, it's that you see them regularly. But that doesn't mean they seem like they're in a turtle shell. And so you may or may not see these changes. You're seeing some of them. Just keep up with that smart contact. Keep an eye on her. You've got kids. You have a reason to still be involved. Okay? Let me know if you have any more questions or if I missed something in this. Because I often answer a question, I feel like I'm missing something. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all in the next question.